Welcome to the FedEx Institute of Technology podcast, where innovation meets insight. As the University of Memphis' hub for research and emerging technologies, we bring together experts, leaders, and change makers to share ideas shaping the future of technology, business, and society. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started.
I'm just going to lead it over to the SIM chapter and your representatives to talk about real-world cyber attack and response and the role of AI in your defense. So off you go. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon and welcome to what is sure to be one of the most critical discussions of our conference. As we all know, AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It is here and it's fundamentally changing and reshaping the landscape of cybersecurity. We've seen it as a powerful defensive tool, capable of detecting and responding to threats at machine speed. But we've also seen it weaponized by our adversaries, creating a new generation of sophisticated and targeted attacks. The question on every CISO's mind and senior leader is, how do we harness the power of AI to protect our organizations without creating new vulnerabilities? Today, we have four distinguished leaders who are on the front lines of this battle. They're not just discussing theory, they're implementing strategies, making tough decisions, and building the resilient security frameworks that will define the future. I am your moderator. My name is Jimmy Arbelaez. I work for Methodist Bonheur Healthcare. I'm our GRC manager. Let me introduce our panelists. Tony Fischer with the City of Germantown, CIO, and Lynette Larkins. She's the Senior Director of Information Security at St. Jude Research Hospital. Alex Tartera, he's the Senior Vice President, and I'm gonna mention this because I couldn't figure it out, for MAA, which is Mid-America Apartment Communities. And then we have Lana Davenport. She's the Chief Information Security Officer at Sylvamo. So let's start with the battlefield, panelists. Have you experienced a real cybersecurity event on your watch? And how did your team respond? And what surprised you most about that crisis? And I'll try to turn that over to Tony first. Tony Fischer.
Sure. Thank you, Jimmy. So we did have an event at the City of Germantown. This was last year. It was actually on Groundhog Day, which turned into, a lot of Groundhog Days every day. It felt like being in the movie. So we had a ransomware attack that came in to the organization very early in the morning. And I think, the biggest thing that surprised me throughout that incident, we had a plan. We had a cyber response plan. And those plans typically involve all the things you need with, what do you do with your backups and what's your recovery plans and restoration plans and all those good things. The piece that I really felt was missing in those plans for us was a people plan. How do you handle your staff and how do you handle your people? As a city, we have, we're used to dealing with disasters. We're dealing with, natural disasters, all those things. That's typically fire department, police department. They've got deep benches where we don't. And so trying to deal with, how do you deal with staff, the stress, the lack of sleep, the family issues that come up. We had COVID come up in our staff as we're trying to go through it. Those things were very unexpected. And I think that's an area that a lot of plans are lacking in, is making sure how you take care of your small staffs that you have. They're going to be working these incidents.
Okay. So Alex Tartera, did you have something, that cybersecurity event that happened in, you can remember?
Yeah, so we actually had something rather unique. We came in work Friday morning. We started seeing some kind of weird things. And it really wasn't that abnormal, but then we started seeing where some domain admin accounts were being created and some group policies being pushed out. And we're like, okay, we're running around saying, okay, well, did you do this? Actually, to be honest with you, we were running around going, okay, who broke change management? Because they're doing something they're not supposed to do. But kind of find out there was actually an actor on our network in running stuff and running GPOs. So We were very fortunate because we were able to we just shut the internet down. We basically unplugged. And then when we unplugged, it stopped that person from doing stuff. It also stopped them from actually executing. But then we had to forensically go back and say, how did he get in? What did he do? But we were real lucky. But and it was really kind of a fluke that what he did was when he was pushing out a GPO, he actually, instead of it saying users for a subdirectory, he put user. And it started kind of triggering a couple of errors. So we were pretty lucky in that sense. So,
how about you, Lynette?
Thanks. I want to echo what I heard Tony say. I've had a pretty long career now, about 20 years, and I've been through a lot of different incidents. The thing that I think is, I guess it may be surprising, but is the people side of it when you look repeatedly, because, people want to help. And like, I'll give an example, when you have an incident, you commonly, you'll stand up a bridge line where everyone who's working on it can communicate. But people will stay and won't get offline or stop working, because you get into this. And I've fallen victim of this myself too, especially in my younger years, where thinking I gotta, work endlessly 24 hours a day because, the panic moment sets in. It really does take a lot of discipline and a lot of pre-planning and procedures and protocols for no, you're going to sleep and shift B is going to come in. One recent incident that a lot of organizations kind of got to practice this was when, if you were a CrowdStrike customer, and you were affected by all these blue screens, or maybe you were traveling in the airport and you couldn't get where you wanted to go. The whole world was kind of experiencing this. And I know at St. Jude, one of the things we did that had just phenomenal support is we have this sort of decentralized network of tech professionals that aren't officially in the roles and the IT roles, but there's about 300 or 400 people that have tech backgrounds, and we mobilized them and invited them to come help. We gave them training. We gave them written procedures. Here's how you go fix a blue screen computer. Well, on this event happened, I think it was on a Friday morning early, if I recall. I had so many people volunteer to come in all throughout the weekend that St. Jude, we were able to recover 95% of every computer that wasn't locked 3 doors deep where we couldn't get to it by Monday morning with a volunteer workforce. So I just think the thing I've seen over again is how people so want to help and so want to be a part of the solution. And then there's this balancing act where you got to balance that with people's well-being, and their wellness during an incident is easily compromised.
Thank you, Lynette. Lana, Davenport, how about you? And do you have a cybersecurity event that you want to share with the panel here?
So I've been in cyber for quite a while, and so Jimmy and I actually worked at FedEx together for quite a while. So while being a manager of the cybersecurity at FedEx, we all had to take turns to be commanders for our incident response. So it was our job to, lead the incident if it happened on your watch. So multitude of incidents that I had to deal with various degrees. Some they weren't really a cyber incident, but we had to deal with them anyways because they were just, and I'll mention that, I'll close out with that one because some of them were pretty funny. But some of the major incidents that probably most people in the city have heard about. So when FedEx bought a company called TNT, within a few months of that purchase, they actually got hit by NotPetya, which wasn't meant for FedEx at all. It was meant for, between the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. But we just happened to have computers in Ukraine that used the tax software that was affected. And so I think my takeaways from that was how quickly it hit. Okay, you kind of practice it, you think about it, but in reality, how quickly everything goes up in smoke. I think it was 50 minutes from the beginning to the end, where nothing was available. Now, luckily enough, it was just portion of the FedEx network. Our main, portion here in U.S. was not affected. That's because we haven't integrated the company fully. But that was a major event, and we had to fly people over to Europe in shifts of 2 weeks, and people working around the clock. Again, people aspect is the most important aspect, but also the communication. When that chaos ensues, there's things that you practiced, you really didn't practice those things. So dealing with the chaos in the meantime, while you're leading an incident, how do you communicate to executives properly? Because everybody wants to know what's going on. So this is a very important aspect of every incident. So that was, one of those major incidents that took weeks to recover. And also, I think the major lesson learned is to lean on your partners, because in these type of incidents, if it's a really major incident, this is what you have insurance for. This is what you have your incident retainer for. Bring the experts that deal with these things, because as a company, we always hope not to deal with those, okay? So we don't really deal with those day to day, but the companies who deal with that day to day, they have the muscle memory. They know what's going on, so they can help you. Another important aspect is your major vendors that sometimes you don't think about. So when you practice your tabletops, bring your major vendors that are critical to your business to practice with you. That's, I think, something that a lot of companies don't do, and they should do it. And I'll close out with a very kind of funny incident that we got, and I was on duty, so it landed in my lap. Somebody called in and said that in one of our facilities, they had a printer that was just printing like multiple pages, and they couldn't stop it. They would stop it and it will start printing again, like hundreds of pages. And they were, freaking out. They're like, something's going on. We probably have some kind of breach. Somebody breached us. So we had to investigate. So, it turned around. It was an employee who was at home. They were, I think, closing in their house, and they had to print out a bunch of stuff, and they would hit print and thought they were printing at home, but they printed at work. And so nothing would come out. So they would wait, and they're like, I need my stuff. So they would hit it again. And so the people in the office were freaking out. But that was probably one of the kind of funnier ones. But, we spent a little bit of time chasing that one down.
Thanks. Question for Tony. We've heard a lot about AI's potential. You guys are up there waiting for us to talk about AI. But what's the actual role AI plays today in your security operations? Are you seeing impact in threat detection, alert triage, or behavior analysis with AI?
Yeah, I think for us, it's still for us very early. We have not been implementing tools, specific AI tools for this, but what we're seeing is our products that we're using, that everyone is starting to integrate AI into their products. Some of it's vaporware, everyone wants to have the word AI in their product, but some of them are real world tools and really good. And so I think we'll see that in terms of implementing AI for cybersecurity. It'll be kind of taking that journey along with our vendors and our partners that we're already using, because I think they're much more prepared than us to try to go at it alone.
All right, Alex, you're up.
So kind of twofold for that. I agree. I think that a lot of the vendors are starting to say AI, but one of the biggest issues that I have with AI is really how it's being leveraged from a phishing attack perspective. So focusing on that because of social engineering and all the ways that it's doing from a phishing perspective, it's kind of increased our need to make sure that we put a better defense up. From an agentic perspective, we're actually trying to leverage AI to help us become more efficient, and correlation rules and AI rules to sit back and identify a potential threat and actually go in and contain that device. So we're really strong on trying to say, how do we contain AI, or how do we contain a cyber attack? But what we're really trying to do is reduce what I call a blast radius. So we're trying to do things with AI to help identify something and then actually take whatever is identified and contain immediately, and then notify the team to say, hey, I've contained this, and go on. So
yeah, I would echo that. I think we're early. We have had some good success with shortening our phishing response life cycles, and I think that's really important because we have to meet the adversaries where they are, and that's a big area where the phishing attacks are just like so profoundly better like this year than last year. So our detection and response capabilities have to be on par with that. And but we were on that journey for a while. It's not like we're going to start from scratch, but we've been slowly letting go and letting the software make more decisions and being willing to take a little more risk of we might accidentally, shut someone off, that it was really them and not an attacker. And so there's this journey of getting to trust the tools and trust the software. And I don't think you come into it all of a sudden, like one day and just sort of let AI do the job or make a decision for you. But that's how we've approached our phishing responses. We used to do everything like literally by hand, like 10 years ago, we'd be looking at the emails and then we've just started to slowly relinquish and trust more and more the tools and the capabilities to make those decisions for us. And that's been, I think, a good and important journey. I have lots of other ideas of things I'd like to do. Some are simple. I was telling someone on a break, I want someone to help me write a little AI agent to just sit on top of my security policies because nobody will read them. We've got like 30 security policies. Nobody but me or my team knows what they say. But wouldn't that be great? Like just a chat, that someone could ask and get correct, accurate, precise information about the rules. That's there's a lot of things that will be fun to do that I'm looking forward to doing, but we're pretty early, and we're also very much looking to our vendors and what capabilities they're going to bring us that are tested and proven, and we'll adopt those as we go.
You reminded me of one thing with the simulated phishing emails. We thought we were doing really well with those. We had our click rates down, in the sub, point something %, and then our vendor added new AI capabilities with it. And we decided to turn that on, and I was shocked that our click rate just popped. And then now we're starting to see that come down, but that made a really big difference in the training aspect for sure.
So if I could just interject here, in the interest of time, I want to move forward with Agentic AI. So Agentic AI, most of you guys, students that are here and professionals, that it's a thinking piece of AI. No longer is it a prompt where you got to put something in and you expect something to come back to you. This is going to change everything. And so what I wanted to do was lead into that with Lana Davenport on, we're hearing a lot about Agentic AI, systems that can reason, plan, and act with autonomy. I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's like the Holy Grail everybody's been wanting for so long. Do you see a future where AI agents could independently investigate, contain, or even remediate threats on behalf of human teams?
I surely do. I mean, I think AI is evolving in such huge speeds, right? That sometimes we're all amazed how fast it's going. I think it has a huge potential. However, I don't think it's going to replace completely the human component of what security teams are doing, especially with complex problems of new threats that's coming out, because AI is great of analyzing everything that's already been done. It's not so great at really looking at something that's completely novel and a very complex problem. So I don't see it kind of going there yet. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think AI agents would be coexisting with the cyber professionals as a cohesive team. But I think it will definitely make the job of the identifying incidents, looking at the detection response, detection engineering, I think it will make it a lot faster. AI can aid, automate those very predictive things like looking at the needle at the haystack. So determining eliminating false positives, so looking at the false positive. That's what a lot of our analysts right now are doing, is actually saying, is this a true event or is it a false positive? So I think AI agents can really make a dent in that and speed that up. Again, everything in security, especially when we are trying to contain an incident, is about speed. So the faster we can do it, the better we're at containing something, and then actually going with restoring or making the company work again. So that's where I see it going.
Yeah, so I think, if I look back, if I had that when we had our incident, one of the things that took a long time, at least it sure felt like a long time, was doing that forensic analysis, trying to figure out how they got in, what they did. You're sort of just sitting there waiting to do your recovery. And so if that can speed up that process, that can cut a lot of time off and speed that recovery significantly. One of the areas I have concern about, I want to make sure, when there's an incident like this, I think it's really important that before an incident is remediated, that there's an opportunity to collect evidence, because these are crimes, right? I mean, these are criminal acts, and while a lot of times they're overseas, I think that the ability to collect that evidence and then potentially deliver that evidence to law enforcement, where they can put all of this evidence together and use AI to help solve some of these, would be helpful. So I don't want to lose that aspect of it if we're just going to have some technology that just goes out there and fixes it. Well, that's great, and we certainly want to get it back up in business. I think we need to have means to stop these guys as well.
Yeah, so to piggyback off of Tony, I mean, I agree. We're not looking at Agentic AI to remediate at this point. We're actually looking at it to contain and basically isolate it off of the network, and then notify the people to go in and sit back and say, how do we want to do that? So, I mean, we've established a good process to where if it sees something that actually looks weird, and we're playing with what we call a confidence level. So as the confidence builds up, it takes the appropriate level of action. So if it hits a certain confidence level, and we're being very precautious in this, is more actually I'm saying, look, if it just looks weird, shut it down. I'll deal with it. And then put it to a human to sit back and say, let's go look at this and see if it needs to be addressed, or if it's truly a false positive or whatever. So, I mean, we're being pretty aggressive on just containing the device and then having it notify somebody and say, let's go look at it and see if it's really need to be contained. So,
Lynette.
I kind of think of us humans as slow AI, and every other AI is like fast AI or something. So I kind of see us like collaborating together and sort of on a spectrum. So anyway, that's just an observation I've noticed over time. But we're using I don't know, not really technically what I would define as AI, but like a lot of scripting and automation. So you just made me think of an area we've created a strategic imperative around cyber resilience, and there's a lot of different aspects. What does that mean? But one of the things that we really put investment and time and energy into this last year was containment, or basically network shutdown protocols. Like, what is the fastest way we can shut things down to stop the spreading of that, and that involved a lot of scripting and automation, and you have to have you can't really pull that out and practice it, right? Like, you don't want to unleash that on the organization, because it's a bad day when everything gets shut down. It's not something you just practice for drilling, but you really need those tools and capabilities. And I think one of the things that I think is going to determine to what extent we can be successful with AI is how much transparency there is to it. So, like, when someone writes a script, I need there to be like checks and balances and places along the way where a human can get in there and see and decide, pause here and then go forward, versus just, unilaterally taking action. So I think that's one of the things that we will want to see and get comfortable with in the deployment of AI for cyber is how much can and should we trust it? And same thing with writing software. It's the same thing. You got to be able to test it and prove it out and have confidence that it's there. So I think it's kind of we're evolving from just, scripts to make us better protected to eventually, faster and faster capabilities with AI, but the same principles still apply.
Something that we techie people do not do well, and especially during the incident and when there's chaos, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on, is actually documenting and communicating, because usually the drive from us security professionals is to lead, right? To lead the investigation, the containment, but the communication aspect is also there. And AI would be very helpful, and it already can do this very well, right? It can take everything and summarize it to different audiences, executives, board, social media, right? What can you put? Regulators. There's so many communications that need to happen at the same time, and we're just not good at this while we're doing stuff, right? So that is like a prime example I can see where AI and Agentic AI can really help us.
You and I had a discussion about software being developed using AI, and I was just curious if you had anything you wanted to share with the audience here about that.
So it's a good point. I mean, with AI coming in, this has actually been around a long time with like GitHub and function calls where you can get a developer to go kind of copy code or copy functions. Well, now with AI, what's happening is that instead of it just being more of a function, it's actually like a whole program. And so, some of the things that my paranoia comes into play with that is like, what if a threat actor has actually written that, putting it out there saying, hey, I will help you solve this problem, but it's actually embedded some backdoors or things of that nature that you don't really look at or see. You copy this code in, it does exactly what you want it to do, and you kind of push it out in production, and yet it's got some little backdoor that maybe down the road somebody can pick up. So what we're doing is trying to look at that and saying, okay, what are some of the tools that we need to look at to say what code has been written and what code's been written by AI, and doing some incremental from a software development lifecycle, testing or looking through to make sure that there's not some embedded pieces in there. So, I guess I'm over paranoid in cyber, but it is a situation where I can see where somebody could embed some stuff in there. And if you're not going through the proper channels from your life cycle, you could easily be overmissed and all of a sudden something's popped up. So.
Thanks, Alex. Tony, what are the threats that you're anticipating 2 to 5 years from now, and how must our defensive mindset evolve? Are we prepared for a world where attacks are also run by agentic, adaptive AI adversaries?
I'm not sure we are. It's it really scares me, and I really see, one of the things that I have seen with these organizations too that are doing these attacks is they're better funded and better staffed than a lot of our IT organizations. They've got some of these have as big a budgets as maybe your whole organization does. And so I think the days of trying to handle a lot of this stuff even in-house and trying to run these programs yourself is just not going to continue. And so we're going to have to really count on our vendors and count on our bigger partners to do this, because I just know, like an organization my size, I can't compete anymore. We can't do it. We've got to rely on the Googles, the Microsofts, these other big ones to handle that security. They have the resources to do it where we don't, and it's just going to continue to be this cat and mouse game where one gets better, the other gets better, and we're back and forth, and we're going to constantly be dealing with this, I think, for a long time. It's just not going away, and it's getting faster. It's getting the attacks are getting more severe. They're coming up with new ways to not only get in here, use things like Agentic AI and do it, but also get in and do more damage, more extortion, kind of taking things to the next level with folks. So I hate that. I'm not trying to paint a dark picture. I think, there's still a lot of great opportunities, and the future is bright, certainly in this field. But we have to face some realities. It's going to be a tough time the next few years with all this technology coming on.
I agree with Tony. I think, and going back to my paranoia thing, is like I'm really not that paranoid, but people are really out to get me. So, there's no silver bullet with cyber, and what you've seen over the years. 10 years ago, IT guys never talked to any other IT guys about their stuff. They don't ever call their baby ugly or anything. With cyber, people are opening up, and it's forums like this and communications like that, and partners like the peers that we talk together. We're looking to feed off each other. This is a battle, and Tony's right. These guys that are coming after it are well more funded and have way more knowledge than we do. So we've got to be collective in our sense to make a better stance to fight against this. So
yeah, sad. No, but I was thinking back in 2004, I think, is when I first had to give my first executive briefing to the board of directors about our security posture and everything. And I remembered this slide that I used, and I just basically told them security is an arms race. That's just and I still believe that. And we're just in a new chapter of it. It's the same thing 20 years ago. I told the board it's an arms race. It's still an arms race. And, I don't know where, if you think about that analogy, we're going to nuclear annihilation, I guess. I don't know what else is there. But yeah, it's been like that all along where, it's just, we just have to keep rising to the level of the challenges that are put in front of us. And AI is a fascinating one because, it really is fast and powerful, and I don't think we will have the option to skip this cycle, right? Because the adversaries are going to be leveraging it. And, I've heard a lot of horror stories about, just how easy and cheap and simple it is for people to, get training and develop AI agents and tools that they can wreak havoc against organizations. And so I feel like we don't really have a choice. We just have to find ways to rise to those challenges as they come, unfortunately.
Thank you, Lynette. Lana, would you like to?
Yeah, I was going to say, in cyber world, we cannot even predict what happens a year from now. So 2 to 5 years or 5 years is a total chaos. It's, everybody's guess here. I mean, we can have the whole humanity be taken over by AI by then, or, AI can die. Probably won't happen. But so who knows, right? So I think it's very hard to predict. But I think what excites me about AI is that it potentially can cure cancer. It can find the ways to cure cancer. It can now even find, breast cancer better than radiologists can. So those things really excite me. What scares me about AI and what the potentials there is that we as cyber professionals, we have ethics and we have a code of ethics, and we use that, right, when what we do. Attackers don't. So there is and AI itself does not have a moral compass. Unless it's programmed to do so. But Agentic A.I. also has goals, right? They go towards the goal. And again, we as humans have the compass to say, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. AI does not, right? They have a goal and they will do everything to achieve the goal, which potentially can be illegal, immoral, right? So that aspect of it really scares me because, again, when attackers develop the AI to fight us or to extort us or to steal data, right? They don't have the morals attached to it, but we have to abide to those. So, and then I think another thing that I want to say is really bias in AI because we even now, a lot of people trust what they read, right? And it's a lot of this is very biased. So a lot of AI models are trained on the internet. Actually, it's a black box, so you don't really know what it's trained on. And if they would tell you what it's trained on, then everybody else can emulate it, right? So they won't. And we all know that the vastness of the internet, how much biased opinions are there. So all that makes its way into the AI. So when it makes its decisions, it's unfortunately using that information. So that's, I think, and another thing I want to throw out is quantum. So quantum is coming. We don't know how fast it's going to be here. I think it's called a Q day. So we're all preparing for it as cyber professionals. It's going to wreak havoc to us with our encryption standards. So we need to be getting ready for that. So we're already thinking and conceptualizing that, but there's a lot of preparation for that. But I'm always thinking, will AI accelerate that, right? So if it accelerates that, are we really ready?
All right, thank you. Should we be taking some questions at this point? Yeah.
So coming from a student perspective, I've been learning about like zero trust architecture and security. And my question was, when it comes to introducing new programs that use AI, or even introducing AI or agentic AI in cybersecurity, like what would be your approach to introducing that in a zero trust architecture if your organizations, are using that?
Yeah, so zero trust, still is early on the process, but the way we're looking at it is, it kind of just really goes back to a simple term. You're trusting but verifying within that. So, even with AI, there's if somebody sends you something, the process would be you kind of go back and look to say, where is that coming from? Is it real? Do I need to attack from there? So, it's kind of hard to tie. For me, it's kind of hard to tie the two together. So.
So I wanted to add to that. So there is a specific zero trust framework for agentic AI that's being developed. And it touches upon what I said earlier, right? So that framework is being developed because you have to make sure that your agentic AI only has access to what it needs to have access to. And that's the principle of zero trust. So, and you always have to check and verify that it basically doesn't go rogue. But just what I said before, we as professionals or companies or companies who develop agents, they can follow the framework. However, your attackers will not.
One thing that we're in the midst of doing before we do a large enterprise-wide rollout of Copilot in this case is we're deeply examining, testing, fixing, remediating our underlying data security for information that's going to kind of sit on top of, right? And this morning I heard a few people talking about the importance of this, but it is really very important. The AI is going to rely on the underlying security. If it's allowed to read a file, it's going to read a file. So this is forcing us to kind of go back. I think of it like back to basics, something that we, in theory, could have or should have been paying attention to is, where do we have overly permissive access to information inside of our organizations. With a search, it's a lot harder to go and find and expose those problems. AI is very, very good at, writing a query that's human language, right? To go and surface up something that was inappropriately shared. So it gets back to that basic principle of just minimum necessary access. But if you think about it, you've been, collecting information in organizations for decades. Like that principle, we may have it in our policy and a goal, but we haven't been perfect and always correct at employing that. So we have an obligation and a responsibility to go and find those things and fix those things and, do the best we can. It's a risk-based approach, right? We're never probably going to get it perfect, but we're doing a lot of, and I'm starting up a new data security focus area in our information security office to try to get ahead of this and to put energy and attention on it.
When I thought of something, you brought up data integrity, and that's a big thing from zero trust. And AI is that, over the years, as you mirror or provision people or do things, you may have access to data that you really don't know about, and because you don't really know about it, you don't actually go get it. AI is going to go get it. So you've got to really be looking at that. I mean, we're actually rethinking our RBAC models and how we're looking at stuff. We're to the basics, but we're actually almost like throw out all the permissions and start from scratch because you just don't know what you have access to.
We have some more questions out there.
Hi, my name is Desiree Robertson. I'm with UMRF Ventures. And my question to you all would be, where do you all see the collaboration of AI and cybersecurity in the next 20 to 30 years within your organizations?
We might be all extinct in 30 years. I think it goes along to what I said, right? So it's hard to predict what happens in 1 year with AI right now. I'm hopeful, and I'm by nature I'm an optimist, but by my job I am kind of a realist, and I'm paranoid. So I have to question everything. So I think that it will definitely make our jobs easier. But on the other side, we're also going to be under a lot better attacks than we are now. So again, it's a war, right? So, and we're losing because unfortunately the hackers get our budgets, right? When they ransomware companies and they get that money, they get our budgets from us. So they have potentially much more funds to fight this war. And AI is going to take it to the whole new level. But we have to fight it, right? So creating the guardrails for AIs, I think, and creating regulations for AI, we're behind on that. So as overall in the world, we're behind. I think Europe is definitely kind of leading the way in that. So we need proper guardrails to be able to actually utilize AI to the full potential. But it's really hard to predict where we're going to be in 30 years, to be honest with you. Like I said, when we're making plans, it's hard to even make plans for 3 years down the road. We don't know when quantum's going to hit. So we're trying to kind of look the immediate things. And the best I can say is that especially for students out here and for everyone, the best we can prepare cyber professionals right now is to keep an open mind, to learn, to understand how AI works, to see what are new things coming up with AI, pushing for the regulations and the guardrails, creating awareness to the risks of AI. So that's the best we can do, and really try to adapt.
I will just say one thing to the audience out there. AI is a job engine. It is not a job killer. Just give it a little time.